recording. Thank you very much, Johanna. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you have had as nice morning as I have had. This is my second session about this theme that we are talking about this morning, which is about the migrant entrepreneurship, meaning entrepreneurship for immigrants in Finland. The speaker this morning is me. My name is Henna Hautala, and I work as a business specialist in South Ostrobothnian tea office. And my job is to advise all the foreigners who want to establish a business here in South Ostrobothnian area, meaning that we have different cities here and different municipalities. And the main language that I use with those who have moved here from elsewhere is, of course, English. And my skills are also quite good in Estonia and Swedish as well, to some extent Germany. But what the subject here, a bit stiff upper lip this morning, is that we want to talk about how to be an entrepreneur in Finland, depending on your residence permit and what kind of support there is available for you to discover here as an entrepreneur. So thank you for this event, and I try to be as thorough as possible. There will be about 12 slides of very tough text, but hang on there. I will run it through with you. And if there is any questions, please write the questions during my presentation to the chat board, and also keep the microphones closed for during the presentation as well as the initial info here. And of course, you can present questions also afterwards when we have finished the recording during the initiative presentation. And also this recording is available later on, and it will be also available on YouTube, which means that it's accessible of different participants. So you don't have to be present here to be able to view the recording there. So very much welcome to the lines, and let's start with the information. I will see that if I get my presentation to be visible, fingers crossed. I hope that it's visible now, and I try to move it to the presentation state.
Yes, that's fine.
Good, good. And let me know if the slides won't move to a second one, and if the screen freezes, so that I'm able to fix the situation from here. So let's see what entrepreneurship for immigrants in Finland holds, actually. So a bit about the content that we are going through now is, first of all, Finnish legislation for migrant entrepreneurs. Also, there are two laws that we need to take into consideration when we are considering to become an entrepreneur here with a foreign background. First is Aliens Act, and the second one is Enterprise Act. And on the fourth slide, we will go through a couple of things that needs to be noted. And also after that, we will see a table that consists of different types of residence permit and how they relate to entrepreneurship. And also after that, we are going through the startup grant, how it is related to a foreign background of the applicant, and also some other public funding that there is available at the moment and accessible. And also we'll go through useful websites that is available, and they are available in this material afterwards. And of course, you can also Google them based on names. And two last slide are about how to start a business in general and what to consider in that sense. And of course, my contact information. So, about Finnish legislation. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that at the moment, Finnish legislation is not available in English completely. Due to that, because the terms and the vocabulary is, how to say it, country centralized. So the legislation is legally binding only in Finnish and Swedish. Those versions are available in Finlex databank. But there are some extent explanations and refers to these laws, but those are just summaries. They might help to some extent, but not completely. And that's why I definitely recommend to learn Finnish and use it here if you want to establish a business in Finland. And what I also have to note here is that the Enterprise Act is relatively new law. It has been, or it has started to at the 1st of July only, so a couple of months. So that needs to be taken into consideration. But also that needs to be remembered that case-sensitive situations are always taken into considerations as well. But basics come from the law. So, Aliens Act in Finnish legislation is the fundamental law what comes to migrant entrepreneurs or the possibility to be an entrepreneur with a foreign background. And here is a Finnish quotation that I have written here from the law. Basically, what the law means is that your right to be an entrepreneur or to establish a business here is strongly connected to a residence permit. And also here I have to note that MIGRI, our immigrant office, has very good English translations on their site. So if you have any questions concerning your residence permit, please contact MIGRI or go to their website. And also about the law that has just started or being strengthened is the Enterprise Act that started from the 1st of June, as I told before. This law makes it possible for a person who lives outside EU or ETA area, meaning European Union area, and has a home site outside of EU borders, has the possibility to apply a permit from PRH, which means our patent and registration office. I have to remember always these translations. Sorry about my English. But yes, Finnish Patent and Registration Office, they have the possibility to admit a permit for a person who lives outside European Economical Area for business purposes and a license for that. Because the law is fairly new, we don't have yet experience of these cases, but I think that we will see them coming in the future. What needs to be taken into consideration is that the Finnish Patent and Registration Office may demand a report for your accessibility what comes to fulfilling the legal obligations concerning the planned business activities. What this means in plain language is that you have to be able to prove that you are able to function as a business owner and run its business as well as the law-binding activities here in Finland, even though you live outside European Union. So that's what it means. So what comes to residence permit and how they relate to possibility to be an entrepreneur? All the other residence permits basically allow it, but there are some exceptions. For example, a continuous employer specified. In this case, the residence permit is specified to a certain employer and company. In that case, the business is not allowed. And also be temporary employer specified. Same case, because here the employer is specified. So you have come here, Finland, to work for a certain employer and a company, then you have to do that because the residence permit is binded to that. And also be temporary, for example, limited student or exchange student who is studying here, or a foreign student who is, only a foreign student who is studying here a degree. Entrepreneurship is not allowed during studies if establishing a business is a part of a thesis, then full-time work in the established company is allowed, of course. However, the extended residence permit has to be applied early enough as soon as the thesis is ready. So one has to apply early enough a second residence permit, even though they have a company. And of course, these three have exceptions when it comes to business and being an entrepreneurship. And that exception is a person with a residence permit based on employment, the abbreviation is TTOL, is allowed to establish a business in Finland if the original reason for the issued residence permit remains. What this means in plain language is if you have a residence permit that has been given to you based on employment for a certain company, then that has to remain. So that would mean that you are allowed to work as a part-time entrepreneur, but not as your main income source. You cannot only be an entrepreneur. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you can apply a residence permit for an entrepreneur in this case. This table does not have to be learned by heart. Of course, you can use it in the recording. But basically, these are the terms and types that are currently here. Oh, what next to take into consideration? Here it's also stated that if you want to run a business here mainly and move to Finland based on that, then the residence permit has to be applied for an entrepreneur. So the type for an entrepreneur has to be applied when it comes to residence permits. And also here are the both facts stated that the opportunity to establish your own business in Finland may be considered in other cases as well if the original reason for your issued residence permit does not change, like stated before. And also the exceptions for student or either a person who has a residence permit based on TTOL, employment, family ties, or temporary protection has the possibility to establish a business in Finland. What we need to remember also that this doesn't include the public funding opportunities. This only gives you the possibility to establish a company here, but anything else is case sensitive, depending on what kind of funding a person is trying to apply for the company, etc. And also for a student, if the studies are almost finished and one needs to establish a business as part of their thesis, then they are allowed to work in their company full time. In this case also has to be remembered to apply for the extended permit early enough as soon as their thesis is ready. So this has to be noted. And also in the temporary protection cases, a person who has applied for temporary protection and is registered as such, for example, Ukrainian, is allowed to establish a business in Finland. What has to be considered in this case as well is that this doesn't include public funding. This only gives you the right to be an entrepreneur in Finland. So, about startup grant, which is personal de minimis support. What this means is that it's given to the person who wants to establish a company or business here. And TE offices have the authority to make these kind of decisions and also grant the startup based on the case. So what this startup grant means that it can be granted also for a foreigner who resides lawfully in Finland and who has taken care of the obligatory licenses and permissions required. This means that what comes to the field that where the business is functioning mainly. So there might be some definitive permissions and licenses, for example, psychotherapy or restaurant or cafes or clubs, for example, this. And the startup grant cannot be granted for a company which is not located in Finland. Oh, double words. Hence, because it is meant to support new business and jobs in Finland. So it can be given or granted only for business which is functioning here in Finland and also is an possible employer in the future to others as well. And startup grant cannot be granted to a person who does not live within the Finnish borders, even though the company itself would be located in Finland. So what this means is that a person needs to live in Finland. Their home should be registered here. Otherwise, the startup grant cannot be granted, of course. And what startup grant really is functioning for is that its purpose is to support the entrepreneur at the beginning of the business when the income is not so frequent or not so flowing, basically in the ignition phase, so to speak. And also, the applicant has to work in the company full time. So the company and the business is the main source of income for the person what comes to startup grant or granting it. And also the business has to have the potential for a profitable future and support the main livelihood for the entrepreneur, meaning the applicant who is applying for startup grant. Also, any permissions or licenses required by the field of business needs to be in order. Everything has to be lawful, basically this. So, what other public funding opportunities there are? For example, here in the Ostrobothnian area. Well, for agricultural enterprises, there are funding that can be applied from leader groups. For example, Aisapari in South Ostrobothnia. What this means is that the agriculture is based on that the business is designated regional countryside areas. And it's on agricultural business. And what comes to the funding that is granted by ELY, Ostrobothnian ELY Center, is that the company has to have a connection to a farm or farming itself. And here is also more information via the link that is mentioned here. One alternative is also a guarantee by Finnvera. The guarantee helps to obtain financing for various investment and working capital needs. So it's basically a guarantee that a Finnvera is granting you for a bank loan. And the guarantee is for a new company that cannot be no more than 3 years old by register. And also here is stated the website of Finnvera, where you can go and get acquainted with the terms and also the content of the guarantee. There are other alternatives as well than just startup, based on the location that your company is going to have and also your location, of course. And more useful websites are here. For example, Finnish legislation, these laws, Alien Act and Enterprise Act, can be found on the Finlex site that are stated here, and also residence permits, which is taken care of by Finnish Immigration Service, Migri. And if you have any questions concerning your residence permit and how it's related to entrepreneurship or business, first take contact with Migri or check out their website for the information. They have very thorough website with good English translations what comes to resident permits and also work in Finland and EU residence permit and others as well. So get acquainted with the residence permit texts on Migri's site. And of course, what comes to startup grant and advices and support and answering questions is TE office. And here's a direct link for startup grant and for English translation. And also on that side, you can apply for startup grant if you have a Finnish bank account and also the digital identity. And what I also advise is to contact the Uusyrityskeskus neuvoantava. They're experts and specialists who help you to, for example, develop your business plan and also cost estimations. Also, furthermore, they have a good guide to entrepreneurship, which is available on internet in the stated address, and you can download it as a PDF on your own computer or cell phone as well. So, to begin with, how to start when you have a business idea. If you haven't contacted the local business specialist yet, do that. And that means that we are here available at the TE office. My language that I use mainly is English with the customers. But if you are a customer of an unemployed job seeker here already, then you can have a discussion with your own official here and ask for a meeting with me. For example, this. Also, you can contact municipal officials here in Seinäjoki. I think that there is Tiina Jokela-Lyly, who is also taking care of these matters. And of course, municipal business operator, which in Seinäjoki, for example, is Into Seinäjoki. And also others like Uusyrityskeskus and Etelä-Pohjanmaa yrityspalvelut. But if you contact me also, I can direct you further and give some advice who to contact if you're not on my jurisdiction. And also think it through thoroughly that if you really want to establish a new business, or is buying one an alternative for you as well. Also, the business idea and good, thoroughly thought business plan are good tools. And we can help you with the cost and profit calculation, budget and market analysis, even though in web there are available tools for this and already drawn out tables, for example, in Excel. And for example, at Uusyrityskeskus neuvoantava, their specialists are good at this and they have very good tables there already in Excel, of course. Also, study thoroughly different opportunities for funding, meaning those that I mentioned before: startup grant, agriculture funding leaders, Finnvera guarantee. I recommend to get acquainted with these beforehand because they might be in conflict with each other, meaning that if you are having or an agriculture funding has been granted to you, there might be a possibility that you cannot get a startup grant anymore because you have the other one already. So get acquainted with the terms. What else? In Finland, to be an entrepreneur, you need to be at least 18 years old because otherwise you are not legally binded by law and you don't have to write, for example, sign different kind of documents or contracts. And first of all, what is most important is that you have the mentality of a strong individual. What this means in plain language is that you won't give up and you are determined, and also you are very flexible, meaning agile with your plans, that if you have a business plan, but there are small things that you need to tweak with it, like a certain product that you need to change a bit so that people will sell it, that won't be a too difficult task for you to tweak your plans a bit. or to alterate them, because change is what matters all the time. It happens all the time. And also language skills are quite important. Finnish, of course, it has to be adequate. I recommend that the customer should have at least one course of Finnish as a part of their resident program. Also, to some extent, you can communicate with English here, but if we think about the Ostrobothnian area, it's not enough. I would say that mediocre English skills are helpful, but they won't save the day, so to speak. And of course, you need to know the basics of enterprise actions and Finnish legislation, especially those two laws that are abbreviated here to some extent and mentioned. Also, irreproachable payment and tax register are elementary, because those are those are the means that, for example, funders can be sure that you are able to take care of your duties money-wise. That's what it means, basically. And also, your business has to have a profitable prospects for operation. That's why the business plan is so crucial. It has to be drawn out very carefully. I don't mean that you don't need to have so much text there, but be specific, be clear, and be realistic. And also strategy, very crucial for the survival of the company, so that after you have survived the first 6 months, you have a future with the company. That is what strategy is for. And also accountant or accounting company, they are so valuable here because they help you so much with taking care of your economical duties, what comes to taxes and the tax officials and insurances, etc., and possibly also salaries that you will be maybe paying in the future for your employees. Also, the required registration and permits concerning the field have to be diligently taken care of, meaning applied early enough. And so that in some licenses and registrations, they need to be enhanced year by year. So get acquainted with those terms as well. And here is my contact information what comes to South Ostrobothnian area. I am the person who is helping and advising as a T office official immigrant customers who wants to be entrepreneurs and want to have more information about establishing a business here. So feel free to contact me. I will help you in any way that I can. And also I will help you if you are working as an official helping immigrants to establish a business here in Ostrobothnia. Thank you very much for this listening the presentation, and I think that we have came to an end and can stop the recording and answer some questions if you have any questions there. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the questions because I had the presentation here.